For this next exercise, we're going to use a mask text path. That means we're going to create a circle and then run our text along it to create our text animation. Let's have a look. So this is our final result. I want to show it to you first so you have an idea of where we're going with this. We're attaching a bit of text to a mask path. First step is I'm going to go and make a new composition by clicking on the new composition icon at the bottom of my screen. I'm going to call this mask path. And I'm going to make it a square aspect ratio this time. So 1200 by 1200 pixels. 30 frames a second is fine. And I'm going to make the composition length 7 seconds. The first step I'm going to do is make a background. So I'm going to go up to Layer, New Solid. And click on my color. Let's make it a nice bright background. So nice bright red solid here. Then what I'm going to do is go up and make my face first. So I'm going to build up this face and then put the text around it, right? So our goal here is to have like a happy, sad thing. So let's do that. Now I need a new shape layer. I'm going to make the fill black. I'm going to draw my eyes first. Something like that. Let's see what that looks like. Good. That looks pretty good. And I'm just going to click on the ellipse 1 here and press Command D to copy it. And then move the position of this one, the X position, just over 1, right? So it's kind of got face-like qualities. And then overall, so I'm going to adjust the position on the layer line here, just so it sits more central. And I can also do that with my Align menu. So let's do that with Align. And then I'll just center this anchor point too. I think it needs to go up a little bit. All right, so that's roughly where I want my eyes to be. And then I'm going to make another layer, shape layer for, I'll call this eyes. I'm going to make another shape layer now for the mouth. So let's do that. And now what I want to do is just make sure that my rulers are showing so that I can just actually draw, just put a little guideline in there so that I can draw this mouth properly, right? So let's do that. I'm going to click off, to make a new shape layer, I'm going to click off all my layers and then just draw my mouth here with my pen tool. I'll draw my sad face first. Right, and then I'm going to take that fill off. I'll put the stroke on. That's going to be 15, sounds good, but then make it black. Then I'm going to go in with my selection tool, and I'm going to convert the vertexes, right? So all of these vertexes should be converted to Bezier points. And then we'll get in there and just make this adjustment here. So now these points can kind of be adjusted. The handles can be stretched out a little bit. See the handles on all of them, so convert them. Just making adjustments so that it looks right to you. to your eye. Even another guide here might help us just get right in there and figure out exactly where our lines go. So using the guides to kind of snap to these points. I think that looks pretty good. Let's just, okay. I think that'll work. So this is the mouth sad. And we will do another one. So let's just duplicate this layer and call this mouth happy. So now what I'm going to do is just use my rotation. But remember, if I rotate around this point, this is the anchor point. So I'm going to center these anchor points. Control click, transform the center of the anchor point. So the in layer content. Oops. And mouth sad, same thing. All right, so that's a little better. And then when I go to mouth happy, let's go into the contents, shape 1. Let's transform this. Let's just go rotation. Let's go 180. So that ends up top there, but we can just move the position down. Okay, so now I've got my shape, my face here. And I'm just going to trim these, so let's look at that. Let's trim this. So if it's 7 seconds long, we'll make this a 3.5 second loop. So that means 315 at 30 frames a second. So happy, we can maybe start happy, right? So option, bracket out, option, bracket in. And there's going to be a slight overlap there, so let's move these back 1. So there it is. So now it does that. All right. Next step, go up to layer, new text. And I'm going to just type out happy, sad. So select all. Make sure your text color is black. All right, now I've got this. So I'm going to draw a mask on this layer. So what that means is that this layer is going to have a shape on it, but it's going to be invisible, and it can either shield the layer content or it can actually become a path that it travels on. Let me show you. So if I click on my circle here, and I'm just going to draw my circle around my layer content. Just kind of get it into the center here, which is pretty good. You can see that this circle now is invisible, right? If I click off, you don't see anything, right? But clicking on that mask, that either can shield what's on there or it can become a path for the text to travel on. Let me show you how to do that. So under the text menu here, if we go into path options and we select that mask for it to travel on, suddenly now we get this, right? And the cool thing about this is if you look at first margin, right? So that's referring just to the H. So the first margin is just the H. The last margin is the D in sad, right? If we just animate on this line, you can see this thing can travel, right? Which is pretty cool. You can also align this, right? So you could do this. You could force the alignment, right? You could do something where it's staged off. I'm going to do something called reverse path, which is it travels on the outside of this whole thing, right? So I can see now that I've got a slight problem here is that it comes off the screen a little bit. I could make my animation a little smaller overall, right? So I'm going to go do that. So let's just fit everything on first, right? So let's get all of these, right? Press S for scale. Let's go to, say, 75%. That's good. And then in the text, maybe let's select it all, make it 100. And this time, or maybe 125. And then I'll put it inside
inside. So now it travels around. Okay, that seems like it could be good. Then what I'll do is get it so that it's opposite each other. So I'm using my spacebar to create lots of space between that, right? So now if I take this thing kind of travels, right? So let's align this. All right, so happy, then let's put a first margin. Let's change it so that it's right below. Okay. And then at sad here, we have to have it come all the way around. And then at 7, we'll just go to just before it. Let's preview that. So not complicated, but it gives you an idea that you can actually run text along a shape line by drawing a mask on the layer and using first margin to animate its position along that mask path. All right, to export, go to File, Export, Add to Media Encoder Queue.